Guys and girls, let's talk about our last trip, Bali. Roll the B-roll. Alright, before we get started talking about Bali, let's talk about some very interesting facts about Bali. Like for example, 80% of Bali's income of the economy comes from tourism, and they have over 500 different dialects spoken in those little islands.
Indonesia actually has the highest population of Muslims in the world. So it's a Muslim country predominantly, except Bali is Buddhist. So the shrines that you see everywhere and the food offerings is actually a Buddhist tradition.
And then, preparing for your trip to Bali, the first thing you need to do is we need to talk about the word, the V word, the one that most people don't like to hear, the visa word. Yeah. Well, since I'm not an American, I have to apply for a visa. Now Bali has a program whereby you can apply for a visa on arrival. It's about $35 US, and you need to have that cash right away at the airport in US dollars. We saw a couple of people actually stuck at the airport because they could not get out of the airport to get to an ATM, and the ATM doesn't give you American dollars in Bali, so I don't know.
Bring exact change.
Yeah, so we carried exact change with us the whole time. And how did we get to Bali?
Well, it was a 4-hour flight from Manila, so we were in the Philippines before. If you're in the Philippines, you might as well go just 4 hours, a really cheap flight to Bali.
Our friend Arthur, who was actually a Principai College alumni, met us at the airport with his cool standard looking shades. So it was Kelly, Marina's sister, and I. The three of us were all in Bali with Arthur, who we had not seen in about 3 years since he graduated from Principai. So it was really fun catching up with him. And one thing you notice about being in Bali is don't try and rent a car in Bali. It's normal to always have a driver. So he showed up with a driver who showed us around, he drove us around. It makes your life a little simpler when you're there having a driver, because one, they drive on a different side of the road, and two, you don't want to be getting lost in Bali. Yeah, a lot of people there ride scooters, and the main difference between people in Bali and people in the Philippines riding scooters, everyone wears a helmet. Yeah, everyone wears a helmet. In the Philippines, no one really wore helmets.
Only the tourists. Patrick is pretending that he's a local because he has a motorcycle, but you know why he's actually a foreigner? He's wearing a helmet. The first thing we did was we went to breakfast. I had no idea what an Indonesian breakfast was, and Arthur said, we're gonna have porridge. And that's kind of like, porridge, really? But this was the best porridge I've ever had in my life. So if an Indonesian says we're getting porridge for breakfast, you go for it.
As soon as we got done eating, it started pouring rain.
It didn't stop.
Yeah, and we were in Bali for only a day and a half or 2 days, so that means all our beach activities were kaput. What else can we do around here that's local? So we're like, oh, what does every tourist do? They go to temples and take awesome Instagram pictures. They're like, I want to be that guy. So we went on a hunt for a temple. And instead, we found a jewelry place. So we were driving by and we saw this beautiful building with white painted walls, and we're like, oh, let's go take a look. So we go in there.
Yeah, it's all jewelry that they make there. Bali's a really touristy place. It's probably the most tourist island of Indonesia. There's thousands of islands, Australians and folks from New Zealand. It's a really popular place to go, as well as Indonesians go to Bali. So they have this big
silver factory. In here you can see how to make the silver jewelry. We have good quality, sterling silver, 90 to 55% silver. And mostly the process we do by hand, and the rest by casting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we got a tour of it. It was really awesome.
Yeah, and fortunately I left my wallet back home in the car, so my wife couldn't spend all my money buying jewelry, and plus she spent a lot of money buying gifts at SM Mall in Cebu.
Okay, so we're at SM Mall in Cebu, and I'm about to buy this t-shirt. And then, so I got this in Cebu. In Palawan I got these flip-flops, and they're like made there. It's Palawan thing. And then in Thailand I got the elephant pants. So we gotta get something everywhere you go. So we gotta get something everywhere you go. So we gotta get something everywhere you go.
If you go to a jewelry place, leave your wallet in the car. It was really cool though. They had amazing looking sculptures and statues outside. Obviously inside we couldn't take any videos or pictures of the jewelry, but we just took a wonderful tour with a really lovely lady who showed us around. It was really nice just seeing. After drooling over all the jewelry we didn't buy, we were off to do what we all came to do.
Temples.
Yay! And when we got there, I was too tired.
He stayed in the car and slept. I think we maybe had an all-night flight. Anyway, I went to the temples and it was beautiful. One thing is that you can't show your legs and it's hot in Bali, so you're probably wearing shorts, but they'll give you cloth that you can wrap around. And it's peaceful, it's beautiful. The architecture of the temples is like nothing you've ever seen before.
And gentlemen, those of you who are very proud of your armpit hairs and love displaying them in vests, do cover that up, because often you're going to a temple, a shrine, and they want you to be very respectful. So when you go to places like that, do make sure you're wearing shirts with sleeves, and women, flip-flops are okay, even men, flip-flops are okay. And afterwards we're like, okay, so we did a tourist thing, took a couple of pictures, let's go. What's the next thing? We had to go to our hotel. Often when we travel, we don't always get to our hotel as the first place. It's usually sometimes the very last, because we want to maximize our experience in those countries.
So one thing before you book a hotel in Bali is to look up the different areas. There's very specific areas if you want the beach tourist area or not. Go down below and we have the area where we stayed. The place is called Gusti's Gardens Bungalows. It was nestled like in the jungle. That was the experience I wanted. But check out the different areas of Bali to decide where you want to stay.
Yeah, and when we first got there, you could see they had like these Buddhist thinner statues, and we drove down this really narrow alleyway where you could really fit like one car and a motorcycle, yet two cars were going by. But it felt like you were really walking into someone's home, a traditional Balian home. And Kelly was our neighbor. Hey Kelly! It gave you a really good understanding of what it's like to really live in a traditional Balian home.
So then we had to have some more authentic food. There's taking us to a place for lunch.
We're gonna eat a lot.
We're gonna have Indonesian food.
It's gonna be this like roast pig. It's gonna be roasted like in the traditional Balinese way.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah.
So Arthur took us to a place to have a duck dinner, and this was like a kind of famous Bali place. There's a couple of them around the island.
So babi means pig, guling means spit. So it's like, and Ibu Oka is the name of that lady, the owner.
Oh.
So it's like roast up pig on a spit by Ibu Oka, and there are like 3 restaurants in Bali. And yeah, like this is like one of the best Balinese food I've had. Seriously though, like I hope you guys really like it.
Ow.
So what's this? The special?
I'm not a vegetarian today, obviously. Look at this meal. We have rice. You gotta have some rice, or else it's not a meal. And then we have pork and more pork and more pork. And maybe, is that squash?
Yes.
Okay. That's what the meal looks like to me. Now we'll ask Arthur, what's really the meal?
Alright, so it's pork. Pork and pork. The big one, this is the skin, pork skin. And there's our porks, and this is the veggies.
Yeah.
So check it out, have some duck when you're there.
Yeah, and eat with your hands, because that's what the locals do. Foreigners eat rice in Indonesia with a spoon, a fork, and a knife. And this is how a local eats rice in Indonesia.
Hey,
with your hands.
Look at this local over here.
Oh.
So I think you're just
Arthur's the local.
Apparently I'm more American than Patrick. You know?
Wait, Arthur, what do you think about how Patrick's eating it?
That's the real.
Oh, really?
That's the real way to eat it. You know?
See? Rice with your hands. It tastes better with your hands. Alright.
Look at the sausage.
Is there that black thing?
Yeah, that's the sausage.
And I was more local than anyone else. So that dinner was good, and I was eating with my hands. Got home, slept. The following day, I woke up super early because I had to go explore. So I went to a coffee shop, and while everyone was sleeping, they woke up, they knew where I was.
No, that is not true. We went to have breakfast at the hotel thinking he was still sleeping, and came back and he was gone and we couldn't find him.
I didn't know that. I'd heard a lot about Balian coffee and how amazing it is. So I went down the road to a little coffee shop, got some coffee. It's actually really, really good. And then the others finally caught up with me through Wi-Fi, calling Magic or something they had there. And then Arthur took us to a monkey sanctuary, which was so cool.
I feel like I'm a guide in the jungle, and I'm like sneaking around and trying to find the monkeys like in Tarzan. You have to go here if you're in Bali.
Yeah, it's a natural reserve that they've set up for the monkeys, and when you go there, all the monkeys are there, and then like you get to feed them, so you get to hold up like a little banana.
And they climb up you and they sit on your head and they're eating it. It's awesome.
Now this next footage, full disclosure, it was my first time being climbed by a monkey.
He freaked out. Oh!
Zip up all your jackets and everything.
Watch out, Marina. Did I let go? Oh my gosh. There's a monkey on my head. Kelly is kind of awesome.
Angkat tinggi kita.
Oh, bye
He's
Marina.
coming, Arthur. He's coming. Oh. He's like, give me.
Oh my god. Wait,
Patrick, is there a picture?
Yeah, I'm gonna get.
yikes. Oh, he got off you fast.
Kelly.
Kelly.
Oh, oh. You should have held it on longer.
Okay, so then after the monkey sanctuary, we all decided that it was just about time to kind of eat again.
What do you do when it's raining? You eat, but there's awesome places to eat that is so beautiful, and you can see all the tropical landscape and the rice paddies, and so this was actually one of my highlights of my time in Bali, was this restaurant.
Yeah, I don't know the exact name of it, but I'll put it down in the description. It was really good. Arthur had been there before, so he showed us around. And as we were all finishing dinner, we decided to pull out all our IDs from college. And Arthur pulled out this ID of him with long hair when he first arrived at Principai.
That 3 years after graduating, back living in Indonesia, he still carries around in his wallet his Principai ID.
And now he's a short hair guy, clean shaven. We're like, what happened to you? You are such a man now. Oh. So it was really good catching up with Arthur and having him show us around Bali and everything. And then afterwards, went back to our hotel because we had an early flight in the morning. Kelly, Marina and I, we all ended up going to Kuala Lumpur next. So yeah,
that was awesome. If you're in Bali, might as well stop in Kuala Lumpur.
I would say a couple of the things that I wish we had done in Bali is at least gone to a couple beaches, but because it was raining for the 2 days that we were there, we were not able to go to any beaches. So next time you go, probably we will end up going to the beaches. But apart from that, Bali was awesome. We recommend it. Do the whole cultural thing, stay in the local place.
And if you're in Indonesia, that area, do go to Bali. At first I didn't want to go because I just knew it was the touristy place, but there's a reason it's touristy. Indonesia has a really modern economy. Jakarta's huge skyscraper buildings. The culture isn't super obvious. Bali is the place where the Indonesian culture is still alive. There's people doing traditional dances and wearing traditional clothing and the architecture, so it's where you can see the real traditional Indonesian culture. So do go to Bali.
And always remember, travel with love and respect to your fellow travelers and everyone who you are visiting. See you in the next one. Bye.
Don't let me down, don't let me down.